Welcome. It's Domain Day from Cheapwinefinder.com. Again, with more inexpensive but fun-to-drink wines. This is a French wine. Trader Joe's $6.99, but in Europe it's in wine shops, and it sells for between $13 and $16 when you do the money conversion. So it's almost twice the price there. And the name of this one is the 223 Grenache. Year 2020 is a vintage. It's from the Languedoc in France. It's an IGP wine, which means it doesn't do all the rules and regulations of AOC wines, but it's of the region. The 223 refers to the growing season of Grenache grapes. From bud break to leaf drop is 223 days. Now, I doubt if that's ever going to show up on a trivia contest, but if it does, you're going to amaze people when you throw that one down. It's not an area code, so we're not in the 223. So it's a Grenache from the Languedoc. It's a brand wine. It's made by a company. I've got all the details in the cheapwinefinder.com review. And it's made by a company in France that makes brand wines. There's a lot of that going on in California, and this is the French version of it. And it was probably made for the U.S. market because it's 14.5 alcohol, which is kind of ripe and juicy. And, well, France does that nowadays. The younger people like ripe and juicy wines all across the world, but it used to be more reserved wines were from France and the old world wine countries. I'm going to take a sip because it's pretty good wine. One cheap wine tip I tell people, if you want to drink the best cheap wine, learn to like Grenache. For one thing, Grenache is not a grape that you see a lot of, at least in value price wines in California and maybe a little bit in Washington State. That's about it. There's a group called the Rhone Rangers out of the Central Coast AVA. And they do a lot of those Grenache Syrah wines of the Rhone and the Languedoc. Do excellent wines, but they're more boutique, small batch wines. Their wines tend to cost a little more. You do find some single varietal Grenaches. You do find them in blends, but most American wine drinkers don't get turned on to a Grenache from American wines. But in the Rhone Valley, the southern Rhone Valley, northern Rhone Valley Syrah, you get these blends of Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, and other things. In the Languedoc, it's that way. Along the northeastern coast of Spain, there's a ton of Grenache in there, and a lot of these wines get 90-plus points all the time, and they usually cost less than $15. It's, they have 100-year-old vineyards. You have winemakers who've been dealing with these grapes for decades. So you have very mature vineyards, you have winemakers who know how to make the wine, and you have low prices. So learn to like Grenache. And it's not that hard to like. Usually intense, sleek wines. This is 14.5 alcohol, like we said, so it's a little bit bolder on the fruit. But it's got some really cool flavors and spices and herbs and maybe some licorice. It's got some interest to the flavors. Take another sip. It is a medium, wine. It doesn't have oak. Grenache doesn't need oak, which is another reason why it can be cheaper. Oak barrels can cost $1,000 a barrel. They don't hold that many bottles, and that can add to the price of a wine. Grenache has enough tautness to it's not a flabby wine. It's sleek. It's fit. It's got strong, specific flavors, which is one of the reasons why in Rhone Valley it goes so well with Syrah, because Syrah can be ripe and juicy, and this is sleek, and the two go together, and they kind of like peanut butter and chocolate, So So there you go. Grenache wines are cool. Learn to like them. And you want to start out on a $6.99 wine that's 13 to 16 in, where'd I get those prices? Denmark and in England. This is pretty good. There's a winemaker. I got the link to the site who made the wine. There's an actual hotshot French winemaker made the wine. It tastes great. It's made for Americans, so you don't have to kind of figure out what the French are all about. You can kind of learn that later on. So it's an easy wine to drink. It tastes great. At $6.99, it's a ridiculous price for a good red wine. Just took another sip, which tells you everything you need to know about the wine. I think that was my third, if I'm not mistaken. Probably can get a fourth in here, but the music will stop before I can get that far. So that's it for me. Stay cool. Keep it cheap. I got more wines coming. We talk about cheap wine all the time. Like us where you like your wine podcasting, but I think most of it's just on the internet and rather than anything else. But if you can, like where you can, I'd appreciate it. And I'll talk to you in a little bit. Adios. Keep it cheap and be safe.